Our mission at Boa is to make quality networking, the type of networking that you actually look forward to going to, something that's accessible to entrepreneurs and business owners, not just at every stage of business, but also in every location, which is a big reason why we're doing a lot of digital events, and we're doing, and of course our local networking chapters, which I keep talking about, which everybody should be part of. So if you're not part of your local networking chapter, just get a part of it. Join it, and if there's not one close enough to your area, just tell us, because we'll launch it, we'll fill it, and then we'll officially launch it. Now, today is very special because we're going to have the opportunity to learn and meet three incredible business owners. The topic of the session is creating, marketing, and selling products that customers can't get enough of. So basically, how to make something that people love. All three of these guys are experts at it. They were just teaching me a few things in the office out there. So I'm going to start by asking them a few questions that we've prepared. But like all Boa events, it is going to be an open conversation. So there is going to be like an extensive Q&A section, and ask questions that are relevant to you and your business. Because if it's something valuable to you, it's probably going to be valuable to someone else here as well. And that's what Boa is all about. It's a community of business owners here to help each other and support each other. Because as we all know, the entrepreneurial journey is not an easy one. And it's even harder when you're on it alone. So hopefully no one ever is again with Boa. Guys, could we, actually I'll do a short introduction first. First we have Anaita at the end. Anaita is the CEO and co-founder of Hero Packaging, and she's the best-selling author of How to Sell Anything Online. I literally can't not fly without seeing that book. I don't know how you got it. Every airport in Australia, you've got your book front center stage. I actually don't even know how you did it.
I actually put my book in places that it's not meant to be. So, just if you want to know.
I swear, it is amazing placement. Dylan is Happy Skin Co. He's the CEO of Happy Skin Co. And he's also the host of an incredible podcast called Life, Money and Love. And there's one episode in particular, it's exceptional. I'm the guest of that one. You should listen to it, it's a good episode. And of course, Paul Waddy. Paul is one of Australia's leading e-commerce advisors and a best-selling author himself. I actually have his book because he gave it to me, but unfortunately, Paul, I left it back. But it's an exceptional book, and I'm sure they'll see it. Guys, I just want to start today. Obviously, that was a very high-level introduction of you. But Dylan, do you want to go first? Just do like a 30-second elevator pitch.
Of course. Yeah, so I got into e-commerce probably 7 or 8 years ago. We had probably the dream e-com startup success story. Put $10,000 in. Started with a business partner. We put $10,000 in each. By the time I did that, I had less than $1,000 in my bank account, but it was like all in on the dream. We saw other success stories like the High Smiles of the world, build businesses, and they were one of our first real inspirations. So we did that, we launched, we put all our hopes and dreams on it, and it worked out. We did $1 million in the first three and a half months, 10 mil the first year, 12 and a half the second, and then expanded into retail and stuff. So had a really good product to market fit, which I think will be a theme that we speak about a lot today. And then off the back of that, had a lot of cool opportunities, podcasting, mentoring, that sort of stuff. That's how I sort of got started in e-com. So fair
to say that you're relevant to this particular event. Paul.
I remember sitting on a panel with Dylan a long time ago, hearing the story, and I was like, damn, that's, and hearing it again is like, man, well done. So I'm probably older than my other two panelists here. So I started in e-com. Well, I'll take you back to when I started in wholesale. So I started a men's footwear brand in 2005, and I was a trade union official at the time. And I was telling the guys I was selling all over Sydney, like David Jones and ASOS in the UK and everywhere. And I was like, my friends were like, oh, you must be loaded. I'm like, I've got no money. I literally couldn't take my girlfriend, now my wife, out for dinner. So I thought what I'll do is I'll open stores. And man, was that a mistake. I went into 5 stores. I had a store here in Westfield paying $4,000 a week. And I was like, man, what's the catch here? Like, it just wasn't working for me. So I went into e-com, sold that business, found my home in e-com, was selling online for 2007, joined a company called Showpo, which I'm sure most people will know, and had a great time building that business with Jane and the team, and such a good time. First was introduced to the CEB Club at that time as well, which is good. We used to do our board meetings there. And after that, I started coaching and consulting. These days, I coach brands, some of them in this room, from startup right up to 200 million. Brands like Baby Boo and Budgie Smuggler and Maison de Sabre, wherever your bag is.
Bags in there, yeah.
And I also co-founded E-Comm Nation, which is a marketing agency. We do performance media, we do email marketing, we do Google ads for brands like Who is Elijah and G'd Up and Budgie Smuggler as well. And fortunate enough to write 2 books, Selling Online for Dummies and Shopify for Dummies. And fortunate enough to be the dad of 3 girls aged 6, 5 and 3. I think.
And so your target audience was dummies.
Well, I mean, you know, yes.
Seems that's
The dummy writes the dummies book. I was,
Takes one to know one.
Yeah.
I bought both. So.
And you're the chair of some
I'm
Australia
the chair of the National Online Retail Association, and I'm the chair of Australia Post Customer Advisory Group. And Anita reminds me of that because the last time I did an event, they said, "Tell us about yourself," and I forgot everything that I'm like, who am I? Thanks, Anita.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm Anita. I have a sustainable packaging company called Hero Packaging. So if you get a compostable mailer on your doorstep, that is 70% of the time that's us. And we started that 7 years ago, but if we're going to go back in history, like Paul did, I was an accountant, a really shit accountant, and I worked at KPMG for 6 years as an auditor, and then I tried my hand at all these different jobs. Like I did everything. Like I walked into businesses and I was like, can I try this job? Can I try this job? And within 3 to 10 months, I just quit everything because I liked everything about the job, but there was something in me that I was like, I'm not happy, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But when I was working those jobs at night, I was running an eBay store and I was selling handbags online, and Maison de Sabre were my competitor at the time.
Really?
Yeah. And so, I ran an eBay store and I was selling like 1 handbag a week, but I loved it. Like, after hours, I would go home and I would write emails or like eBay DMs to customers, and I would do product listings, and I was like, this is my life. But I couldn't tell my parents because they're Indian. And so I just decided that when I quit my last job, I was going to go all in on this brand. And I created a brand out of it, and it was a personalized leather goods brand. So if you guys know, I didn't do this, but The Daily Edited, do you guys remember that brand?
Yeah.
It was like personalized leather stuff. So I just copied them, basically. I just took some of their pricing strategy, made it better. I looked at their reviews, saw the bad ones, and I was like, I'll just improve on what they're bad at. And I did that by myself, and it was an incredible business, and I grew that for 4 years. And I did sell that business, but also I was pregnant with my 3rd child at that time. I also have 3 girls. And I saw a lot of plastic in the business, and basically that was the start of my idea for Hero Packaging, and it took about 9 months of prototyping things and trying to figure out what it looks like to not have plastic in the shipping process, and then that's basically it. So it's been 7 years, and we've made some pretty amazing impact in Australia with e-comm too. Oh, and I wrote a book. Oh, sorry. So that book is there. I've got 3 of them, and that's to encourage you guys to ask questions at the end. So the first 3 people can get a book. Okay.
Love that. And actually, that's a very simple but effective way of either finding the weakness of your competitors or improving or innovating in industry is read the reviews of even the biggest player in your market and see what the negatives are and improve on that. I really like that. Now, I'm going to ask my first question to Dylan. Now, you had a lot of success with your product. So what makes a product truly irresistible to customers? And in particular, what made your product truly irresistible to customers?
Specifically, my product, again, we speak about, you hear a lot in e-com circles that it's a bit of a buzz phrase, product to market fit. But I think as much of a home run as you can have in product to market fit is what we had with Happy Skin Co. Now, I mentioned one brand that we, kind of like what Anita was saying as well, you model what works a lot in e-commerce. You can seek inspiration from brands in different or similar industries from you and take a lot from them. So 2 brands that really inspired us. was High Smile and was Bondi Sands. Now, if you wanted to get teeth whitening done traditionally before the whole at-home teeth whitening craze, you'd have to book an appointment at your dentist. It was expensive. It was painful. You'd get sensitivity. So they thought of a way to take what was traditionally done in more of a service-based setting into a DIY product. You can do it at home, get similar results. We saw that also done with Bondi Sands. Any of the women in the audience might remember back in the day, if you wanted a fake tan, it was you get your friend to come over, they put up that tent thing, they get the gun out and they spray you. And then lots of brands have popped up since then. You do it at home, a nice little self-tan. So we saw the trend of taking something that was traditionally a service and putting it into a DIY product. So we knew that was going to work. And then in terms of Happy Skin Co, we did a lot of customer research. Now, I worked at a gym at the time in Western Sydney. I'm originally from Prestons, which is like Liverpool area. If you go into Liverpool Westfield, on every corner, there's a laser hair removal clinic. So we would ask everyone at the gym, anyone in our life, we probably asked 200, 300, 400 women about their experience with laser hair removal. Sounds random, coming from a couple of guys in their mid-20s at the time, but we did it. And we found that honestly, like 95% of women were either currently doing it or had done it in the past, but there was a lot of different, thinking about reading the reviews and looking for opportunities. It was expensive, it was inconvenient, they had to book, it was painful, there'd be strangers all up in their bit. So there was a real opportunity to create a product to fix a lot of those problems. So we launched it, expecting that it would take a while to take off because it was a really new technology at the time. We didn't invent the technology, it existed. Braun had them, Philips had them on the bottom shelf of shaver shops. So no one really knew they existed. No one had marketed them the way we market brands in social media now. So everyone thought we invented it. But I think for us, what we did really well is we solved a genuine problem that people were experiencing. And it was a problem that was affecting them emotionally, sometimes in ways that was conscious, sometimes was unconscious. And if you can create marketing off the back of a product that solves a problem, and you can tap into that emotion and pull on the heartstrings in some way, shape or form, I think you stand a really good opportunity at doing well. And I think if you want that really quick uptake, there's a lot of saturation in the e-commerce world now. If you can be an early mover in an industry, I think it helps when a customer sees a solution to one of their problems packaged in a way that they haven't seen as many times before. If it's something that's completely saturated in a really established industry, of course you can still be successful there. Might take a little bit longer to communicate some of the USPs and things like that. But I think that's why we had such a strong launch and was so successful so quickly, solving a real life problem, tapping into the emotional side of that problem, and then having that really quick scaling mentality. As soon as we tested something, whether it be a type of influencer, a type of content, or a type of ad that really worked, we doubled down, tripled down, just went as hard as we could until it fatigued or it didn't work. And then we were always testing and trying new things. So we'd always find new opportunities to find the next, 6-figure, seven-figure ad or style of content, whatever it may be.
So it sounds like the key to maybe not creating, or I guess the key to creating a product or a service people love is finding product market fit. So I guess Paul or Anaita, do either of you have any great advice on how to find product market fit, or a story of how you found it for a product or your company?
Yeah, I'll tell you the story about how I did it for Hero Packaging and how that started. But before I do that, I actually think that if you want a product that works, there is no real industry right now that isn't saturated. So the idea of getting into an industry, it's not just about the packaging anymore. I think Dylan started at a really good time. But now everything is saturated. So how are you going to stand out, right? You need a moat, and I think we will talk about that. But products that do really well, and take note, okay, products that make you hotter, products that make you smarter, and products that make you more organized will always do well. And they're also very safe in a recession too, right? Like we've got that lipstick theory. And I think
what was that? Hotter,
smarter, more organized.
More organized. I love that.
And I truly believe that, like as a girl, any product that promises me to look hotter or have a glow up, right, I will buy it. So I'm just letting you know, if you've got a product like that, that's going to work. For Hero Packaging, the way we tested it, Hero Packaging doesn't make anyone hotter, but what it does is it brings convenience and it makes sustainability easy. And also I'm B2B, so it's really different to a D2C brand. The way we figured this out was we just built a landing page and we gave away free samples to see whether there is demand for sustainable packaging, or if people are happy to just pay full price for plastic. And so we created a landing page, and that landing page was an image of a mailer that we hadn't even ordered yet. I just photoshopped it. And then it was, shipping address, email address, and the business name. And it said, do you want a free compostable mailer? And I ran a Google ad for that. So the Google ad was anyone typing in sustainable packaging, compostable packaging, eco packaging, green packaging, whatever. Anyone typing that in, $20 a day, would come to the landing page. You could get a free mailer. And I thought, if we got like 20 to 30 signups for that, that would be amazing. And it would become a business in itself. And I thought we would have people that are interested in it. And it was 7 days and we had 1,000 signups. And so then I was like, this is a business, like this is it. But my husband said no, because they're all getting free stuff. It's, it's not a business yet. So we basically gave away these free samples, which cost me a lot of money, because free samples are not free, because it's $7 per package. And we gave away these 1,000 samples, and we had to wait about a month or 2 months to get returning customers to actually pay for their first order. And luckily 70% of them came back. So we had our first 700 paying customers. But that's kind of how we started the business, and we tested whether it had good product market fit. Basically, we just tested demand.
Yeah, I think that is the big lesson there. It's about, but before you go and spend a fortune in building an app or ordering clothes or whatever it is, that you actually test that what you're doing is definitely wanted by a specific market. And a lot of businesses, my full-time job is basically talking to business owners, and I can tell you a lot of businesses don't end up where you think they're going to end up. So from where you start to where you finish is very different. So you want to make sure, though, where you start is something that is going to work. So I think that's a great example. I had one for you, Paul. Sorry, I need to mention something, is how to make a product stand out. Right? So you've got this product, you've tested it, the market likes it. Now, like Dylan said, it's about marketing correctly. Paul, you've sold that much, you've been behind so many big e-commerce brands. How can you make a product people want and love? How can you make that product stand out in the marketing? And Dylan, I'd love to hear from you.
You guys make really good points, right? It starts actually with what Dylan said, product market fit. I'm so happy to hear you say that. PMF, we talk about it all the time, and it's like, you see so many brands start up who just don't have it and just don't care, because they're like, I'll just start, and what I'll do is I'll run some ads, and then the rest should kind of work out. And product market fit is finding a way to meet the needs of your audience, right? And so maybe some of you here have ideas. Why would your business be different? Like, most businesses fail, right? That's the reality. Why will yours work? And that's the question we've got to ask. So if I think about some of the brands that have really made it, your Baby Boos, your Showpos, they've all got something.
Yeah.
They've all got something. Jane Lou is the something.
She's
the something in her one. Baby Boo is a trend spotter. I think how to make it stand out. G'd Up's a really good example. Does anyone know G'd Up as a men's streetwear brand? Western Sydney, you'll know it.
All about it. They're around the corner from us, actually, in Alexandria. So
yeah, that's right. Look, that's a brand that doesn't spend $1 on ads, right? And you think, like, that's not for everyone. I own an agency. I want people to spend on ads, but they don't they don't spend $1, not $1, and they'll do $2 million in a day.
Yeah.
My God.
So they do product drops, right? Like they do.
Yeah. So they'll do $2 million a day, and then they'll snooze for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
Like, he literally will take the rest of the month off.
Yeah.
He's done $4 million in 6 hours, and it's like, and I've just been there for a couple of years. I'm like, what's this guy got? And what it is, it's a sense of belonging. So it's essentially, he started a club that happens to sell clothes. And it's like, if you wear the product around the place, people kind of like it's like you're wearing a football jersey. Now, what's interesting with G'd Up is if they release a t-shirt or a hoodie that has a small logo, it could be beautiful, it won't sell. You give a big motherfucker over the top of it, it's sold out in 2 hours. And that's the thing. Yeah, of course, we do clothing.
And then resale is 2-3 times the price.
And that's part of it, right? And so that resale market is actually controlled. It's like, we're all in the business of supply and demand. We can all supply, that's fine, but how do we manufacture demand? Now, sometimes the demand's there, but it is saturated now. So how do you find a product that's in demand, but there's not an oversupply? There's tools, Google Trends and SimilarWeb and Uber, whatever Uber suggests. You can find what people are Googling. You can. But then how do you do it before it's saturated? Or How do you do a clothing brand like Zimmerman that gets valued at $1 billion in the most competitive space in the world? Well, what did Zimmerman do? Zimmerman fused resort wear with fashion. It's like, oh, that's interesting. And it's like, I think what both the guys said, you don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. You can do better on a product that's already out there. Koala mattresses did eucalyptus. Those guys make a living out of doing that. Spot fast-growing US businesses and bring them here quickly because we're 5 years behind. That just find your own way to make money. But in the instance of G'd Up, it's all about their community. They invest in the grassroots because that's their thing. We're all about community. We don't just say it, we do it. We sponsor every local boxer you can think of. We put money into local gyms. We put money back into the community, and the community pays you back. The problem with most brands is we say, oh, our value proposition, and maybe we'll talk about value proposition today, but our value proposition is we do X, Y, Z. We do, like my one when I started shoes, we do better quality shoes at a cheaper price. It was nonsense. Yeah. It was just fluff. And it's like, people are not hard enough on themselves, right? I'll launch my brand and I reckon just people will buy it. Take a step back and ask yourself, why would people buy it? Really, why would people buy from you? And if you can't answer it, you'll fail. It's as simple as that.
I think also you need to look around the brands and figure out what their thing is too, because sometimes it's hard to tell. Like Jane Lou is the thing for Showpo. I would say if you look at like High Smile, one of the things that they did really well above everyone else was Facebook ads and influencer. They seeded thousands of influencers when they launched, right? If you look at something like TBH Skincare, their thing is through retail distribution. They're getting into all of the stores and optimizing that more than all their competitors. So it's like, what is the thing? Like, how are you making yourself better than everybody else? If you sell skincare and I ask you, what is your thing? And you say to me, my products actually work. And when people try it, they love it. I'll say that's not your thing, because all the skincare brands that are starting now say the same thing. So you've got to figure it out for yourself. What is it? Is it your personal brand that's going to drive it? So for me, for Hero Packaging, and I think these two will also talk about it because they've got incredible personal brands. But for me, for Hero, especially in the time where we weren't doing so well, the thing that brought us out of that was my personal brand. And I think that I've leaned into that as well, understanding that people follow me and trust me and therefore my business will do well. And I've just kind of figured out over time that that's what it is. But if you look at another thing, like this is straight from Paul's point, but the thing of the Oodie, with Davey Fogarty, what was his thing? His thing is the licensing agreements that his competitors couldn't do. He licensed Disney, Nickelodeon and all those things. That was his thing, and other people couldn't get in there fast enough. So you've got to figure it out. What is it for you?
Yeah, a lot of these references are towards these companies' strategies. Creating a strategy that puts you in a unique position that perhaps your competitors can't get themselves into. And in a small, if you're a new business, often you're part of that strategy. That changes as the business grows. I mean, in Jane's case, it didn't. Jane is just authentic. She is the living embodiment of the person that purchases her product.
Yeah.
And so authenticity is a big thing there. I did want to come back to something Paul mentioned. It was proud to be part of something. People are proud to be part of the company's called G'd Up. Yep. Are proud to be part of that. And Anaita, this one's for you because you've got a company that has a lot of values behind it, as you're doing like environmentally friendly packaging, something very important to everybody right now. So I guess what advice do you have to everybody here on how to make your company or your brand something people align with or feel proud to be part of? Or how did you do it for your company?
Yeah, good question. So mine is that we took a stand and we created an enemy really quickly. So I think that if you want to build a cult brand in a space where a lot of brands are in, and we've got a lot of competitors now, we take a stand. We don't think that our compostable mailer is the best compostable mailer. All the compostable mailers are great if they're manufactured in the right way. So everything in this world now is commoditized. All bloody products are the same looking thing. Your consumers don't know the difference. So for us, we're a sustainable packaging company, but there are other companies who aren't sustainable, who I still think should stand for something. So I think if you have a brand, you need to create an enemy. That is the one thing you need to do. And the enemy doesn't have to be a person. I mean, it could be if you wanted it to be, but a concept or a thing knowing that you're standing against like the Patagonias of the world, you know, standing against the dirty denim trade, or Nike, who, you know, when Adidas was going after the athletes, Nike went, I'm going to go after the everyday person and the personal best of that person, and standing for something. So G'd Up, the way they started, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he came out of jail. And he was kind of, right?
G'd up.
It was
pretty
like,
G'd up.
Yeah.
Well, he likes to keep that quiet.
Oh, no, it's public knowledge.
So we're going to have to delete that from the final cut.
Okay.
Yes, he was a naughty boy.
Yeah.
He was a
naughty boy.
motorcycle.
Exactly.
club.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a
But
correctional
basically, it's like
facility.
he's kind of. I can't. Well, isn't he putting money towards people like not
Unfit
rehab?
pathways, like
Yes.
getting
So it's the concept of what he stands for and where he came from that everyone backs, not the clothing. And I think the community is in what they stand for, the enemy or a charismatic leader. That's really the ultimate thing of any brand. You want a cult brand, you've got to have one of those three things. And so for me, obviously there's a charismatic leader, but also I think the fact that we, other than all our competitors who only talk about the product benefits and features, which is so bloody boring and no one cares, I'm showing up and actually going against things that I know small businesses are against. Unfortunately, I have done some video content on Australia Post, which they have not been happy about.
I'm not employed by Australia Post.
So, but you know, when I hear that our small businesses are suffering
I watched it actually. It's really
Did you?
good.
Yeah.
It was good. They're ripping.
Yeah, then the CEO called me.
Did he?
Yeah. Anyway, that's besides the point. So what I'm trying to, I don't know what I'm saying.
I'll give a really good
Make an enemy out of someone.
I'll give a really good example, because I know it's sometimes you hear a concept like that, you're like, make an enemy, and you're like, what does that really mean sometimes?
Yeah.
I'll give you a really good example. My favorite brand that executes organic content, they're actually out of the US. They're a chocolate bar brand called Midday Squares.
Yes.
Go on their TikTok, look at their their first pinned post, and it's all about them in the US. The 4 chocolate companies take up like 90+% market share. Anytime a business grows too big, they're eaten up and acquired by one of these. These guys are taking a stand against that, and they're building their business out of spite. And they take you on that journey. David versus Goliath. Go look at that video, and it'll clearly articulate what Anita's talking about. And
Yes.
I just love their content so much. You'll get a lot out of studying them as well.
I think even just knowing what your brand is not, it's like what you don't want to be. Like, you don't necessarily need to pick a fight. And although I will say that the advice I have been given was to pick a fight. And you know, my business partner, Mark Woods, told me that. And actually a business partner of mine and also another great friend and mentor, John Simon. Does everyone know Aussie John? Like Aussie that will save you? He literally picked a fight with the banks. That was his enemy, saying the banks are ripping us all off as Australians. At Aussie will save you, you know, and like it just worked perfectly. So you definitely can take that route. But I even just think, and we did it with the traditional members clubs in this country as well, although the media kind of did that for us. But I think even just knowing what you're not is like a really important first step, because picking a fight's picking a fight. I got other things to worry about sometimes that, you know, I'd rather do. But even just knowing I don't want to be like that. This is who I want to be, and this is why I want to be it. I think it's a really important question to ask yourself, and to actually place yourself in the market. Like, who is in my market? Who do I not want to be? And where do I sit? Where does my company's position sit in that layout? And I think these are all really, really great things. Now, brand equity is something very important. And it's something that actually does take time to for example, Hero wasn't Hero when you started, you know, and same with Happy Skin. What are the things that you did you feel are important to the brands you have now actually holding strong equity with your customers? So how do you start building brand equity at the beginning?
I think for us, that was really important. It wasn't so much brand equity. It was more brand trust for us, which I think was the biggest barrier we had to overcome in order to sell so strongly. It was a new technology. No one, for one, knew if it worked. No one, two, knew if it was safe. No one knew anything about it. So I think building brand trust was something that was extremely important to us. Now, like Anita has explained, what happened to her brand, like I'd say we launched, within a year after we launched, there were literally 100 copycat brands that from the outside looking in, if you don't understand what's behind the outer shell of a product. You might think it's the same thing or looks the same. And they were taking a lot of shortcuts in terms of pricing, going for the cheaper parts. For us, there's probably 3 or 4 brands from maybe 5-6 years ago that were competing with us maximum that still exist. So I think when you see you're in a market with a lot of competition, particularly if you're like a leader in the space or wanting to be a leader in the space, I think you need to ignore what the others are doing and stay true to what's important to you. Because for us, if we turned into one of those brands and we reacted, we had people selling products for half the price of ours. And we thought, look, if we want to play this price point game, we're going to be a race to the bottom with the rest of them. So I think for us, making decisions that you felt was right for your business and not following the crowd was really important for us. And then I think obsession over the customer experience. As your business grows, when we start, we're all replying to the customer inquiries, replying to the emails ourselves. As we start to grow, there becomes layers and people in between that. And I think it's really important when you get off the tools, as I say, and you're not on the messaging or on your Gorgeous or on the emails yourself, making sure you've set up structures and reporting processes where the most common inquiries or problems are fed back upstream, so you can stay in touch with that, so you can course correct and evolve and make sure you're doing better in the future. But for us, it was around the brand trust and making sure if you're in a position to offer things like guarantees and things like that. I think money back guarantee if you're in a saturated space and your competitors aren't doing it. Look, I think it's something that you need to do nowadays in e-commerce just because of the saturation, but you need to have a quality product to stand behind to do that as well. So those are some of the things that I think really helped us differentiate ourselves from the waves and waves of competitors that popped up.
Thank you. I love what you said. Focus on yourself, not your competition. Something I hear a lot from very successful people. Paul, did you have any?
Yeah, so what is brand equity, right? So it's how people feel about your brand, right? It's the goodwill that your brand has. And it flows on nicely from the previous question, and the guys have both nailed it. So Anaita said, pick a fight, stand for something, because if you're trying to be the same as everybody else or the copycats, they won't last. If we all have the same strategy and the same idea, will it all work? It won't. So I've got a saying, which is zig when they zag. Like, my version of picking a fight is when every other e-commerce coach tells you to hammer 25% on Facebook ads, I just go, that's bullshit. That is, you'll never make any money if your margin's 60, 70%. So I go out on a limb with experience and I shoot straight down the line. Now, I've had people on a call come to me and say, but that's just not right. I'm like, yeah, I'm always right. It is right. 100% it's right. Yeah. And I've had people say, I don't agree with you. And I'm like, I don't give a shit because I don't want you to agree with me. You're not for me. You only need 20,000 customers, right, to make a $10 million business probably, right? You don't need to talk to everybody. Jake at G'd Up always says, mate, I judge my business based on how many pissed off customers I have, because he wants people to miss out and feed that desire. So I think that's part of building the brand equity, is standing out. If I'm the same as every other e-commerce coach around, I'll just churn and they'll go through so I've got to do something different that shocks them. And my wife and that's how I do it in my personal business. Trust, you mentioned trust, it's all about trust. Why trust me? And my wife will say to me, sometimes she overhears me on a call, particularly with business, and I'll just be like, hey, your business ain't gonna work. Now, I could take the money for sure and string them along for 3 or 4 months. And I've done it to her friends. If it's like, Paul, I want to start an online business. Paul, go easy on it. And I'll be like, what do you want to do? Cheetah print shoes. That's a shit idea. That's never going to work. What are the margins? And she'll be like, Paul, don't be mean. And I'm like, I'm not being mean, but my job is to make these people money, and it starts with day one. And guess what? That's what I become known for. That's building brand equity, is, great customer service, honesty, integrity, standing out. That's my thing. What's your thing? You've all got to find your thing. And it's not like, all of you, if you've got a brand, personal brand or a bio, go read, or a business, go read your Instagram bio and read it back and tell me if someone would really buy into that. Like, they're all the fucking same. Yeah. Everyone's got the same. We're making women feel good and look good. Oh my God, you're not. Everyone's saying that. I know. Do something different. Go all in.
I think just a short thing to add on to Paul's point. Don't be afraid to honor what that truth is for you, because you will attract your crowd, and someone who does it different will attract theirs, and that's the way it should be.
That's fine. I think that's a great way. Anaita, you've built a huge personal brand. and you mentioned before the benefit it's happened already for your business.
Yeah.
In the B2C space in particularly, and e-commerce space, the personal brand is very powerful. What tips do you have to create the right content and create content that engages your customers?
One is stop being boring as shit, because I'll be honest, the thing is that not every single person can have a personal brand, and that's the truth. So if you really want to have one,
so make sure the right person have a personal brand first.
Well, what I mean by that is if you really want to do it, then one is you've got to have really thick skin, because it's going to take you some time to figure out what you're going to create that personal brand in and what people listen to you for. I think that sometimes they're like, I want a personal brand and I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do it on fitness, on travel, on fashion, and I'm going to also do it on business, and I'm also going to do founder content, and I'm also going to do this. And then you have an audience that doesn't understand what you actually are talking about. So you've got to figure out that, and that takes time. When I say I've built a personal brand, I started that 6 years ago, before a personal brand was a thing in my previous business. And when Instagram first came out, which was like, a few years after school or something, I don't know. But I just remember thinking, I want to do businessy content. Like, I'm doing eBay stuff. I'm going to talk about business. And I realized that people started to listen to me for that. And then I wrote a book and I wanted to sell that book. And I thought, I don't want to do it on Instagram. That's embarrassing, because none of my friends know that I've written a book. I'll do it on TikTok instead. And every day, I was telling you.
Yeah, I've been trying that.
Every day I did like 4 videos. Yeah. And I just thought, I'm just going to do business content, tips, 3 ways to optimize your website, 3 ways to do SEO, 3 ways to do Facebook ads. And I just kept on doing it over and over and over again. Even when the kids were bloody crying next to me, I was doing that content. I did that for 4 years. And that's how I built up a following. And that's the truth of it.
But it sounds like the key messaging you're saying is that you will be the right person to have a personal brand if you're willing to commit to being consistent in delivering non-boring content.
Yes, and so something really interesting happened to me the other day. I have a content creator. She's 20 years old, and she's living in a world where social media is the thing. Like, they don't even have proper relationships in real life. They just have social media relationships. That's the truth. So she came to me and I said, "You're doing a great job." And she said to me, she burst into tears. And I said, "Why are you crying?" She said, "I'm not getting the likes that I told you I would get for you." And I said, "I don't actually care. I just want to show up all the time. Like, I want to be showing up, and that's how we're going to be remembered as a brand." I said, "No sustainable packaging company is going to go viral." And she was like, "I'm just not doing it. And then also, my boyfriend's ex-girlfriend is getting more likes than me." And she went on.
That is a problem.
I was consoling her for about 1.5 hours on the fact that she's not getting enough likes. When I talk about building a personal brand, I mean, you've got to get over it. Like, I think that we are strong enough and old enough and more resilient than that. And I think that you've got to pick what you want, figure out what it is that people are listening to you about. It might be business, but it might also be, if you're starting a fashion brand, what is it about your fashion brand that people would listen to you for? Is it that you do plus sizes and content around that? Or is it the fact that you have been to China and you've been to Vietnam and you've been to all these places where they manufacture and the intricacies of that fashion brand? Or if it's skincare, what is it about it? Have you spoken to other founders? Can you talk about that? Really think about what you have knowledge on and niche down as much as possible.
We are going to move to Q&A very soon. Just a couple more questions I wanted to do. Dylan, I wanted to ask you about organic marketing. So a lot of people don't have a lot of funds to spend in all the ads and do all that type of thing. So I guess, what are some tips towards strategies for marketing that is done organically without having to have a large budget?
I think the biggest thing with this, and I hear it all the time, I'm sure Paul does as well. I'm sure you've probably, some people in the room have used this excuse for yourselves. Look at Anaita, what she's done with organic content with her brand. There's hundreds, thousands of examples of brands that have absolutely crushed it with organic content. I've got brands that I've worked with that are on $100,000 per month consistently, not running ads, right? But the excuse, and this is only probably talking to a percentage of the audience, but I think it's really important for those of you to hear it. But I'm an introvert, I don't want to be on camera, is such a limiting belief. It's not only limiting you mentally in your own personal growth, but it's like saying, sure, there's a lot of ways to grow a business and you don't have to focus on organic content, but it's probably throwing away the biggest, most effective tool for startup founders to use. 2025, it was 2024, back into 2023. It's like fighting with one hand tied behind your back. So I think that mindset I wouldn't cop it. If you're in that mindset where you don't feel comfortable, one, there is more than one way to produce organic content. Now, there's product-based focus, there's founder-led focus. The best brands, in my opinion, do a mixture of both. But I think the excuse that some people give to themselves, I'm not an extrovert, I shouldn't build a personal brand, it's a limiting belief. I think once you try it, you have to really give yourself permission to suck. And that's where most people get stuck. They don't want to, there's the fear of judgment, but there's more than that. It's the fear of like failing publicly, right? If you don't give yourself permission to suck, then you'll never earn the right to be okay. Then if you don't earn the right to be okay, you'll never be good. And then if you never give yourself the time and the space to be good, you won't be great. And then once you're great, if you don't keep executing, you don't keep looking back at the data that you had, what did I do that worked really well? What didn't work well? How can I take those learnings into the next month and improve the content I create, as well as analyzing your own content, what worked, what didn't? Find 10 to 20 aspirational creators and businesses that do really well on organic content. Look at what they're doing. Look at the content that performs best for them and take their ideas and do it in your own way. Same thing. Look at the trends. Okay, if they post, say, once a month for once a day for 30 days, there's 30 pieces of content. Analyze what are the 3 best performing pieces of content they posted, and what is the common denominators between them? Is it a certain style? Is it a location? Is it a trend based? Is it ASMR? Like, there's so many different styles of organic content. It doesn't need to be you talking and speaking like an authority figure. It can be a day in the life where it's just a little voiceover and you're doing your thing. There is a million ways to do organic content.
I do think that we do come from a place of privilege, though, in that we have built up businesses and now we can create personal brands based off of our experiences. I think that sometimes when people are just starting their business, it's scary because they don't have the founder experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm just trying to think of what you can create. There's so much you can do, obviously, with organic content.
But the honesty in that, like, hey, come along with me as I build my first brand. I've put all my savings into this. This might fail. I don't know if I'm going to be good. I might be like either watch me succeed or watch me fail. But I'm going to figure this out in front of you guys. Do you want to come on that journey?
Yeah.
Everyone can relate to that dream that they're chasing.
Do you know what?
Everyone cheers on the underdog.
What you got to remember is people watch Gogglebox.
Well, yeah.
I'm definitely better than that.
Well, that's a really good point.
But you make a good point as well. It's like people say, I'm just not comfortable in front of the camera. It's like, cool, you comfortable failing? It's 2025.
Yeah.
Can we agree that you need to be on social media in some capacity? So just work that out.
I think that's the question. Are you also, are you more scared of, like, are you more fearful of trying or of failing?
Yeah.
You know, you want to be more fearful of failing.
Yeah.
And I want to highlight someone who actually does an exceptional job, Candace, who I think were you here at the panel with Raquel?
Yes.
And is Raquel that told you what?
Yes, she was literally
Raquel Boris from Who's Elijah.
Yeah, told me that I should start to create content by myself rather than rely on somebody else and just like documenting my things and
The journey.
Yeah, the journey. Yeah, like what I learned through the days. Even it's just a fail, it's okay to share with everyone.
And amazing content. You know, it's
She has
taking
amazing
you on the story, on the journey of running a business, and you kind of cheer. Yeah. Like, you know, and that's what you want to build. Now, guys, I do want to move to the Q&A, and so please, if you've got questions, make sure they're written down. And I swear you'll be first now. One more question to go, but I promise you're number one. I just wanted to finish with the most important thing to each of you, the most important thing to creating a product people love is, and each of you, and take time to think about it. Because to be honest, in the back, I said, guys, did you get the questions that the team sent you? They're like, yes, but they told me that, you know, you might not ask those questions. I said, I promise 100%. I'll ask them. I've read them. I did not ask one. I read one question.
We also didn't read them.
The first one was from the list. The first one was from the list. But then we got going. I felt good, so I was going. But please, now, see, I just bought you some time.
So what was the question again?
The most important thing towards building a product or a service that people absolutely love.
Look, I could say something else that we haven't spoken about tonight, but I genuinely think what I spoke about at the start, product to market fit, are you solving a real problem that people are experiencing today? If you are, that's a really good start. It's not all you need, but it's that first box that you need to tick, because some of the product ideas that you see, it's like, in what world do people need this? Like, be really real and be like, the really easy filter to run this through is, would you genuinely buy this yourself if you saw that?
And is there a particular resource that you read or heard earlier in your journey that made an impact on you?
The biggest resource was, again, it's such a cliche book. I watched it on Netflix and then I read it, and it, you know, it's a bit of a cliche. It's The Secret, but it's not that book or that movie on Netflix. It's the tool of visualization. For me, was the number one thing that accelerated my growth, both personally and in a business sense. I obsess about my goals, what I want to achieve in life, and moments along the way that are going to get me there. And when I visualize, I don't just close my eyes, visualize. I explain the way I visualize like I'm time traveling. I am living those moments in detail. Each moment I visualize, it's not a 5 or 10 minute exercise. It's 30 minutes to an hour. I'm living it and I'm feeling the emotions as if they were happening today. If you can get to that point, that is where the true power is. And that's the biggest resource or book that changed my life, The Secret, which was just my entry-level drug into the law of attraction and visualization. But I'm going to leave one little caveat at the end. Visualizing without action, it won't get you anywhere.
I'm pumped up. Someone's got me pumped up. Let's go.
Do some stuff. Paul, the most important thing towards creating a viral product or service, something that goes wild.
You know, I'm so happy we're talking about things like brand equity and product market fit. Most entrepreneurs don't know what product market fit is. And I just say, like, I probably maybe speak to more e-commerce founders maybe than anyone else in the country. Right? Probably. I still take the calls of all the most of the brands that want to work together, and most of them are just in a hurry to get a product. Now they just want to launch a product. Now, just because it's easy to start an online business doesn't mean you should. So you've got to hold the mirror up to yourself and just ask yourself again, would people part with their hard-earned money on this product? In Australia, over the last 12 months, average order values have gone down $10. Price is the number one factor. Now, none of you can compete on price with Temu, Shein. So how will you compete? So I think it's, again, the correlation, the brands that I've seen go bananas, they found a way to serve the needs of their customers. Good modern example, Nike hammocks. An old problem, and we talked a little bit about this today, like, it doesn't have to be you're inventing, you're Elon Musk, you're inventing something. Old problem, hammock, been around since Robinson Crusoe. They just made them sustainable and have made squillions.
They're making so much
squillions
money.
of dollars on hammocks. But
I love
again,
hammock.
really good content. Like, watch how many kilos of cement my hammock holds, like showing the strength of the product in a really funny
They
way.
also spend a lot on Facebook ads.
7th highest spender in Australia.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. They sell a lot of hammocks because of that.
And the reason that they can spend on Facebook is because they fulfill everything from their shed at the back of their house. So that's the exception to the rule. I say you shouldn't be spending too much on Meta. Those guys pump it because they spend fuck all on everything else.
Yes, yeah.
But
Can we also, for your resource, can we focus on your book? Just briefly, what will people learn from reading your book, or what's kind of the most important lesson from the
I was
book?
debating whether to say the best resource is my book.
No, I put you out there.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, well, look, selling online for dummies will help you get started. Shopify for Dummies will help you build Shopify. But practically speaking, look, that does help you. And we follow me on Instagram. And my pillar on Instagram is I never sell. I only give free content. That's my thing. And it will pay me back, and it has paid me back. I'm doing just fine. But what I would also say is finding that product. Just don't be in a hurry. Like, challenge yourself to find that product that's going to solve a problem, a small problem for a lot of people each day. And I think about what Dylan's done, what Anita's done. Think about what G-Dup's done, what Nike Hammocks has done. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but I think you've just got to do a little bit better. What I would say is, don't aim to be good. You've got to aim for your brand to be the best in the world. Like, that's the levels that you need to be aiming for, unless you want a little side hustle.
I love that. I read a statement once in a book, I can't remember what book, but it was a statement that was something like, what statement can you make that like is true, that you could do that better than anyone else could do that in your given market? And it was a really interesting exercise to go through. I'd highly recommend everyone do it. Anita, actually may as well make the question the same question.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing to creating a product or service people absolutely love
Okay,
and talk
so
about?
I think I will say it because I agree with both of them. I would say let's talk about making your brand do really well. And I think not creating products. Some of you and many of you probably already have that product. So in order to make that your brand better than everyone else, I think it's about mental availability. That's what I want you to focus on. Can you be everywhere all at once? So if you followed any of my content, I say this probably about 7 times a day. You have to be everywhere all at once at any given point in time in the cheapest way possible. So people should not be able to avoid you online. If you think about the sale of chewing gum and you go to Kmart and it's always there at the counter, or you go to the petrol station, there's chewing gum there. That's physical availability. It's easy to buy because it's right in front of you for the right target market at the right time. I think it's really hard online in a digital space. You've got to be everywhere your customer is all the time. If you've got a lot of money to spend, fantastic, use that with your Google ads and your Facebook ads. If you don't have money, please do a lot of social content, like a lot of social content and SEO as well. I think it works really well. But I think if I could leave you with one resource, it is How Brands Grow. It's a book that I have read probably about 10 times, and it's amazing. He talks about mental availability and the concept of being everywhere all at once, and it comes from marketing theory. And I would say another book is called How to Sell Anything Online. It's by Anaita Sarkar. It was
Yes, trick now.
Yeah. And it's better than How to Sell for Dummies, so his is if when you're starting, and my book is more about if you've got a product and you're doing about 10 to 20 orders a day, how are you going to scale that up
Buy
to
them
about
both.
50? Yeah, exactly. Buy them both. They work in unison. But that's my resource.
Can we give them a huge round of applause, please?